Good news to you and welcome back to my channel. This is God-Given Revelation Maths, and I'm back again with another Bgcse video, this time covering quadratic equations. So this video entails 5 questions, and what I advise you to do throughout this video is pause it first, do the equation yourself, and then come back again and cross-check if you did the equation right. Otherwise, please like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy the video. So, the first question says, 2 boys, Unopa and Kagiso, ran a 100-meter race. Unopa took 10 seconds to complete the race. Write down an expression for his average speed in terms of t. So, the question here is requiring us to calculate the average speed, as you can see there. So, if you remember from physics, there's a specific diagram that we usually draw. It's a triangle which looks like this, in order to get the formulas for distance, time, and speed. So it usually has the distance, speed, and then time in this manner. And then when you get the formula, speed is equals to distance over time. So we already have the formula for the speed which the question wants. So I'll write it down at the bottom here, A. Since it's saying an expression for his average speed in terms of t, so I'm going to first write the formula which I know for speed. Speed is equals to distance over time. So what is the distance? Looking at the question, it obviously says the distance is 100 meters. So I'm gonna put in 100 right there, divided by the time. So we can obviously see Unopa took t seconds. So it's going to be divided by t, the time which is t. So the answer is going to be 100 over t. So just another small thing to note is that when you are writing an expression, know that an expression does not have an equal sign. So as much as I rewrote it again at the bottom here, it's because an expression does not have an equal sign as compared to an equation, which looks like something like this. An equation will have an equal sign. So make sure that when you write your expression, it doesn't have any equal sign. Otherwise, we can move on to B. So B says, Kagiso arrived 1 second later. Write down an expression for his average speed in terms of t. So let me write it down just at the bottom here. So this question also requires us to find the average speed of Kagiso in terms of t. So it's something very similar to the first question. But there's an additional detail. It's telling us that Kagiso arrived 1 second later. So if Kagiso arrived 1 second later than Unopa, and we are saying that Unopa took t seconds, and we're saying that Kagiso arrived 1 second later, that means that we're going to add 1 second to the t seconds that Unopa took. And if you add 1 second, that would be a second later. So let's just assume that Unopa, let's just say Unopa took 20 seconds. So if it took 20 seconds and it says that Kagiso arrived 1 second later, that means that Kagiso would have taken 21 seconds. So this is why we're adding 1 second. So the same way with t, if Unopa took t seconds, we're going to add 1 second on top. So the expression is obviously going to look as t plus 1. So this is the expression for the time that Kagiso took. But does the question want the time? No. What the question requires here is the average speed. So we're going to write speed is equals to distance over time. And look back at the question. What was the distance? The distance was 100 meters. So 100 right on top there. And then what is the time that Kagiso took? This is the time which we wrote right here. Kagiso took 100. He took t plus 1 seconds. So t plus 1. And then I will just rewrite it again because of the equal sign. So 100 divided by t plus 1. Or let me drop down a bit. 100 divided by t plus 1 in that manner. And then that is the expression for his average speed. And then question C now says, if the average speed differs by 0.12 meters per second, form an equation in t and show that it reduces to 3t squared plus 3t minus 2500. So what we're going to do now, we're going to look at the question. It says that the average speeds differ by 0.12. So what we start here by doing, we want to determine who was slower. Yes, who was slower, who had the lower speed. So obviously, because Kagiso arrived a second later, that means that his speed was slower. That means that Kagiso was ultimately had a lower speed because he arrived later than Unopa, meaning that Unopa was the faster one because he took less time to complete the race. So that means Unopa's speed would obviously be more than the speed of Kagiso. So you might be asking, why is this relevant? This is where it comes, where it says if the average speed differs by 0.12 meters per second. So let us write down and see. So what I just said that Unopa had a higher speed. So I would write Unopa's speed here first. 100 over t minus Kagiso's speed, who I'm saying that Kagiso's speed is obviously slower. Why? Because he took a longer time to complete the race. So it's just common sense. So 100 over t plus 1 is equal to 0.12. So just to clarify again, what this is saying is that the difference between Unopa's speed and Kagiso's speed should be 0.12, as it says here, if the average speeds differ by 0.12. So it will look as in this manner. So Unopa's speed, who is faster, minus Kagiso's speed, who is slower, is equals to 0.12 if I subtract them from each other. And then now what we will be left to do here would be to reduce the equation. To form the equation and show that it reduces to 3t squared minus 3 plus 3t minus 2500. So initially already here, this is the first step. So this can earn you a mark. Then what we're going to do here is now reduce. So what I usually do myself, I would usually just do times t times t times t, because we're making subject of the formula. So times t here would cancel out this divided by t. So let me do it in this manner. Times t would cancel divided by t. And then we have 100 minus 100 times t divided by t plus 1 is equals to 0.12 t, because 0.12 times t is the same as 0.12 t. So note that I did something here. Note that I didn't do something like cancel this times t cancels the t and then we remain with a plus 1. No, that's not what happens. If it's not a t, it's not the same. If it's If it's a t, a divided by t will cancel out a times t. A t plus 1 cannot cancel out a times t because it is not the same thing, and the t's are not going to cancel out. That is not proper. So make sure you don't make the error of doing a cancel this t and then you cancel the times t. No, that is not how it works. So you would have that. And then again, I'm going to go on and times t plus 1 because I'm trying to eliminate these fractions. Times t plus 1 times t plus 1. I want you to also recognize that what I'm doing on the left side of the equation, I am doing it on the right side too. So just make sure that you do it to everything. If I'm dividing by t, if I'm timesing by t on every side, on everything, it should be on everything because we want the equation to still remain the same. So if I do it on one side, that means that it also has to change on the other side. I hope that's making sense. So what we'll have is 100 t plus 1. And then since t plus 1 times t plus 1 is the same as the denominator there, they divided t plus 1. So times t plus 1 is able to cancel out the divided t plus 1. So this will cancel out in this manner because they are the same, right? So minus 100 t is equals to 0.12 t plus 1, like in this manner. And then all we have to do from here is to expand. So 100 times t is going to give you 100t. 100 times 1 would give you 100. Negative 100 times t would give you negative 100t. And then is equals to 0.12 t times t, which is going to be 0.12 t squared. Remember that t squared would be t times t. So if it's 0.12 t times t is going to be 0.12 t squared. And then you'll have 0.12 t times plus 1, which would give you, or times 1, which is going to remain the same. 0.12 t times 1 is equals to 0.12 t. It remains the same. So let us continue. 100, let's group the like terms actually. So we have 100t minus 100t plus 100 is equals to 0.12 t squared plus 0.12 t. Let us scroll a bit here, and then we'll have 100t minus 100t is 0, obviously, because they're the same. It's just like saying 100 donkeys minus 100 donkeys. That's 0 donkeys. So yeah, the same applies here. So that would be 0 plus 100. We'll just remain with 100 this side is equals to 0.12 t squared plus 0.12 t. So what I'm going to proceed to do now is take 100 to the other side of the equation. So I'll take 100 this side, and how we do it, it's just going to be minus 100 minus 100. So this positive 100 minus 100 is going to be 0. Obviously, 100 minus 100 is 0. So we remain with 0 on one side. And then we'll have 0.12 t squared plus 0.12 t minus 100. Okay, now we're left with this, and you're probably asking yourself, we can be left with this because it says that when we reduce it, it should be into 3t squared plus 3t minus 2,500. So how are we going to make it that way? What we're basically going to do is we are going to divide by 0.12. divide everything by 0.12 so that we only remain with a t squared. So let me show you. Divide by 0.12, divide by 0.12, divide by 0.12, divide by 0.12. So as you continue on, you'll see that 0 is equals to, because 0 divided by 0.12 is just going to be 0. 0.12 will cancel out this 0.12, so you're just remaining with t squared. And then this 0.12 again will cancel out this one. T squared plus t minus 100, as I put in 100 divided by 0. Or negative 100 divided by 0.12 into the calculator, I remain with 2500 divided by 3. And this is in the form of an improper fraction. So if it's in the form of an improper fraction like this, what I'm going to do now, I know that with other calculators, right now I'm using a Casio calculator, but with the Sharps calculator, what you can do, I know that you can press the AB stroke C button, and it should actually like convert your decimal answer into a fraction answer. So you can try that right now. 100 divided by 0.12, and then you press the AB stroke C button, and I think that should actually give you the answer in an improper fraction form. So you would also get a 2500 divided by 3. And then now moving on, what I would do now, I want to remove this divided by 3. So I'm just going to multiply by 3, because the multiplying by 3 would cancel out the divide by 3. So I'm multiplying by 3 on each term. Multiplying by 3, I remain with 0 is equals to 3t squared plus 3t minus 2500. And then this is how it's reduced. It's finally reduced. So it's the same as this. And another thing maybe I should highlight is that this basically 3t squared plus 3t minus 2500 is gonna be the same as 0 is equals to 3t squared plus 3t minus 2500. So don't mind the fact that the equal sign isn't on the right side. Second thing that I want you to take note of is the fact that this question usually takes 3 marks. It takes 3 marks. A takes 1 mark, B takes 1 mark, and then C takes 3 marks. So, and then now we're getting into the question which usually takes a lot of marks, which is the D question, which is to solve the equation. So by just doing this, you already have your 3 marks secured. So the next question wants us to solve the equation 3t squared plus 3t minus 2500 is equals to 0 for t, giving your answers to 1 decimal place. So all we need to do now is to solve the equation. I'll just write it down here. 3t squared plus 3t minus 2500 is equals to 0. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to immediately solve using the quadratic formula. And in a paper 3, remember that no one is going to give you the quadratic formula, so you need to already come into the exam knowing the quadratic formula itself, and then all you have to do is to apply it. Maybe one trick, or one little trick that we were given while I was still in my form 5 was that you could just cram the formula before the exam, and then in the exam immediately when you get in, just write it down on like the question paper, and then you already know that there will always be a question on quadratic equations. So if you have it written down already, you don't have to worry throughout the exam that you're going to forget it, because you already have it there. So remember the quadratic equation. Always remember the quadratic equation. It's it's going to be, in this case, since the variable here, or since we're using t, we're going to stick with t is equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. I cannot emphasize this enough. Make sure that you get into this exam knowing the quadratic formula, because if you don't know the quadratic formula, you've basically just lost your 5 marks. And there's a paper 3. Come on, you don't have time to solve this whole thing using maybe the graphical method, and also some of these won't be able to be factorizable, so that's another downside. So what you can only use is the quadratic formula, and if you don't know the quadratic formula, you have thrown away 5 marks just like that. So just make sure that you have it crammed, you already know how to use it. So let's get back to it now. Remember that a quadratic formula, or a quadratic equation rather, is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. This is how it looks. So you're probably like, what is he talking about now? So we're just trying to appreciate what we're going to be putting. What's this negative b in the quadratic formula? What's this a in the quadratic formula? What's this c in the quadratic formula? So the a, obviously, as you can see, let me write this equation down. Can you see as I'm writing it down that it's very similar to what is on top, which is this? So what is going to be a, which is going to get into the formula? A is going to be 3. B is going to also be 3. C is going to be negative 2,500. Please don't make the mistake of leaving the negative out. So C is going to be negative 2,500. Please be always observant of the negative or the minus sign in front of a number, please. So we already know what we're going to be putting into the formula. So it's going to be negative 3, putting b into the formula since there's 3 here. Negative 3 plus or minus square root of b squared. So the b is going to be 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 2,500, divided by 2 times 3, which is the a again. And then just by this, you've already substituted in the numbers. And then since we're trying to find what t is, all you need to do is just put this into the calculator. Please always make sure that you're putting in the right values into the calculator. And another thing is that usually during these questions, you have to make sure that this negative, if you missed this negative 2,500, your calculator is going to give you an error most probably. So just make sure that you're putting in the right things into your calculator. So just quickly putting this into my calculator, what I'm going to get is 2 times 3. So what I get is 28. You're obviously going to get 2 answers. So yeah, we'll write them down. 28.31784,326, or so another thing that I want us to note is that what this plus or minus means, it basically means negative 3 plus square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 3 minus 2,500. Something like this over 2 times 3. And then it also means, that's why I'm saying we're going to get 2 answers. You also put in negative 3 squared minus 4 times 3, basically the same thing as what I wrote on top, divided by 2 times 3. So basically the same things, is just that the first answer that you get is going to be from putting in plus, the second answer from putting in minus. So this is why you are going to get 2 answers for the quadratic Yeah, for the quadratic equation when you solve it. So obviously the first one that I found, I put in the plus, which gave me the 28.37184,326. And then remember what the question said at the beginning? It said giving your answers to one decimal place. So if I got this, I'll put it into one decimal place, 28.4, because since the 7 would round 1 to the 3 here, which is I get a one decimal place, which would be one decimal here. So that will basically make it 28.4. And then we indicate that by writing to 1 dp, which basically just stands for to one decimal place. So for the next one, I put in the minus, and when I put in the minus, I get negative 29.37184,326, which is equals to negative 29.4 to one decimal place. It's basically the same rounding of I did this side. So those are your answers for T. So to end it off now, it says find the time taken by Kagiso to complete the 100-meter race. So remember the time that we had here, of which we said is the time taken by Kagiso, and we said that he took T plus 1 second. So if Kagiso took T plus 1 second, let us do it here, E. We said that Kagiso took T plus 1 second. So which one are you going to choose here? Obviously, we don't have anything like negative time. So if I take negative 29.4 seconds, that's negative time. Like there's no such thing as someone taking negative 2 seconds to do anything. No. So the first one that you're going to pick is going to be the positive answer. So you're going to pick the 28.4 because it's positive. Remember, there's no negative 28 point whatever seconds or negative 28 in terms of time. So you choose the positive answer in this case, and the positive answer is for T is 28.4. So you're just going to say 28.4 plus 1, which is going to give you 29.4, which is going to be 29.4 seconds to be more specific. And then after doing all that, you would have gotten all the marks. And just to go over it again, first question 1 mark, second 1 mark also, and then the third is 3 marks, 1 3 marks, 5 marks, and then this one is a 1 mark question. So this is how you solve it. So I'll be solving 4 others from here. So let's go on to the next question. So the second question here says, a factory produces new spherical balls with radius 2 millimeters more than that of the old ones. Given that the radius of an old ball was x millimeters, we are to write down an expression in terms of x for the radius of a new ball. So if you remember the first question, right, we were saying that Kagiso took 1 second more than Unopa to reach the finish line. So in that case, what we did was add 1. So like I said previously, if Unopa had taken, let's say, 20 seconds to complete the race, we add 1. That means that Kagiso takes 21 seconds. It's this very same thing with this next question. It's saying that the old ball had a radius of x millimeters and the new ball has 2 millimeters more. So what we're basically just gonna do is add 2 millimeters more to the radius of the old ball. So it's basically just gonna be x plus 2. So if the radius of the old ball was 5 millimeters and we're saying that the new spherical balls have 2 millimeters more than that, that means that it's just going to simply be x plus 2. And if it's 5 millimeters, let's say that the radius of an old ball was 5 millimeters, and then you add 2, it's going to be 7 millimeters. So this is a very simple one. So let's move on to Roman numeral number 2, which says write down an expression in terms of x for the surface area of a new ball, leaving pi in your answer. So let's go on. When you go on to the second page of your Bgcse question paper, maths paper 3, you will find that it has formulas there. And remember, a ball is in the form of what? It's in the form of a sphere. So if the ball is in the form of a sphere, what it's basically asking for is the surface area of a sphere, because it's saying, yeah, the surface area of a new ball. And luckily enough, you don't even need to cram the formula for the surface area of a sphere. I'll insert a picture here momentarily to just show you the formula sheet, of which it would show you the surface area, which is going to be 4 pi r squared. This is the formula for the surface area of a new ball, of a sphere. And then if we're saying the surface area of a new ball, so we're just gonna say 4 times pi times radius squared. So when you think about it, don't we already have the radius? We do, because that's what the first question wanted, or the first numeral wanted. So it's just gonna be 4 times pi times r squared, which is the radius squared, which is going to be x plus 2 squared. So what you're gonna have is 4 pi x plus 2 squared. And then that's it. That's your answer. Remember that it requires you to leave pi in your answer. So don't try and do anything fancy like try and substitute pi for 3.14. No, just leave pi like that in your answer. And then that's it. So let's move on to B now. It says if the surface area of a new ball is 1936 pi, form an equation in x and show that it reduces to x squared plus 4x minus 480 is equals to 0. So there's another reduced question. So what it's basically saying is that if the surface area, remember where we calculated the surface area on the top question, so I can immediately write the surface area because I know what it is. So we are saying that this is the surface area. So if this is the surface area, and they're saying that it's equals to 1936 pi, form an equation in x and show that it reduces to x squared plus 4x minus 480. So here I've already formed some sort of equation. But okay, now what I want to remain with is, I just immediately want to remain with this x squared. I don't need the pi. I want to also remove the pi. So immediately just looking at this, I can take away 4 pi. So how am I going to take away 4 pi? I can just divide by 4 pi, divide by 4 pi, both sides. 4 pi would cancel 4 pi. And then we're going to have x plus 2 squared is equals to, so let me put it into the calculator, which is going to be 1936 pi divided by 4. Obviously pi would also cancel pi, so you can just put in 1936 divided by 4, which would give me 484. So 484. And then what I'm left with doing is to expand. So in this manner, you can just write x plus 2 squared would obviously mean, if x squared would mean x times x, x plus 2 squared obviously means x plus 2 times x plus 2. So let's write it in this form, x plus 2 times x plus 2 is equals to 484. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to expand. So x times x, or basically let me write it in this manner just to make it more simple. This is basically the same as x x plus 2, and then I'm gonna put another plus 2 this time, x plus 2 is equals to 484. So it's something that looks in this manner, just to make it more simpler. And then x, what we're gonna do is expand again even further. It's gonna be x times x, which is going to be x squared. X times 2x is gonna be plus 2x. 2 times x is gonna be plus 2x again. 2 times 2 is 4, is equals to 484. So you are going to now remain with, when you look at the similar terms, you already know that 2x and 2x are similar. So similar is probably not the right word, but for the lack of the right word, I'll just use similar, or like terms rather is the actual word. So if 2x plus 2x would obviously give you 4x, because it's the same rationale that I applied of 2 donkeys plus 2 donkeys. That's going to give you 4 donkeys. So it's the same with x. So x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equals to 484. And, oh, you're probably asking yourself, well, it hasn't reduced. Remember, we're going to take everything to one side so that we remain with 0 on the other side of the equation. So what we do here is minus 484 minus 484. So you're going to remain with x squared plus 4x minus 480. This because when you do plus 4 minus 484, it would give you negative 480, and you can put it into the calculator and check it yourself. And you're going to get this right here, x squared plus 4x minus 480 is equals to 0. So that's how it has reduced, and if you check, it's basically the same thing. So now the next question obviously wants us to solve the equation. So I'm not gonna repeat, but I'm gonna repeat. Remember to always cram that quadratic formula. You need to know that quadratic formula by head. So x is equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So I'll repeat the same thing that we did in the first question, which is basically write it down. Like we said, it's in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So when I write this equation down right next to it, x squared plus 4x plus minus 480 is equals to 0. Remember that x squared it's basically the same as 1x squared, because 1 times x squared is still x squared. So in this manner, we already know that a will be 1, b will be 4, and c will be negative 480. So what we're going to be substituting is going to be minus b, which is going to be minus 4 plus or minus square root of 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is minus 480. Please do not forget that minus, divided by 2 times 1, which is going to give you, as I put it into my calculator, so it's going to be negative 4 plus square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 480 divide, don't forget the negative of course, and then divided by 2 times 1, which immediately gives me 20. And remember that we would obviously have 2 answers. So the first one you put a plus, the second one you put a minus, following the same rationale that we did in the previous question. So if I put a minus, it's going to give me negative 24. So yeah, -4 plus or minus. Obviously, the first time you'll put plus and then you put in everything else, then divide by 2 times 1. Then the second time you're gonna put in minus. So that's what I'm referring to. So the two answers that you get here are 20 and -24. And if they're like this, they're not in any decimal form, so we don't need to do anything fancy to it. We'll just leave it like this. And then we'll move on to the next question. And then it says, write down the radius of a new ball. Okay, so let me write it down here. So we already wrote down what the expression for the radius of a new ball is. So it's written here. So it's gonna be x plus 2. And remember what we discussed earlier about which number you're gonna use. You have a positive number here and you have a negative number. The same thing with length. We are not going to have a -2 meters. Yeah, you can see it's in terms of direction, but no, not in this time. We are obviously going to stick to using the positive number. So you can say that a ball has a -24 millimeter radius. No. So we're going to use the positive number for x, which is going to be, or the positive answer rather for x, which is going to be 20. So you're going to say 20 plus 2 is equals to 22 millimeters. And then that's your answer. And then just as an overview again, this would be 1 mark. This would be 1 mark, 1 or 2 marks. Let's just say 2 marks. I don't have the actual scheme here. This a reduced question is 3 marks, this one 5 marks, and this one 1 mark. So there's a very easy 12 marks. And if you can reduce, you secure 3 marks. If you know the quadratic formula, you secure 5 marks. So we can now move on to the next question. So the third question now says, a machine prints pages in either black and white or in color. In 1 minute, the machine prints X pages in black and white. Express in terms of X the time in seconds the machine takes to print one black page in one page in black and white. So it says in 1 minute the machine prints X pages. So we're trying to see how much time it takes to print one page. So remember that 1 minute, since it's saying in 1 minute, so 1 minute is equals to how many seconds? Remember that it wants the time in seconds. So 1 minute is equals to 60 seconds. So let's do something like this, something that looks like this. So we're gonna say the number of pages is 2 seconds. So it says that it prints X pages in black and white in 1 minute. And we said that 1 minute is equals to how much? 60 seconds. So we're just gonna put 60 like that. And then we are trying to find the time it takes to print one page. So how many pages does it print? It prints one page in how much time, which is the seconds, which is what we're trying to find. I hope it actually makes sense. So we're saying that it prints X pages in black and white in 60 seconds, in a minute. How much time does it take for it to print one page? So here we can put in any variable. Let's just put in A for convenience. So what we're basically going to be finding is A, because we are expressing in terms of X. So we're gonna cross multiply. So we're gonna have AX is equals to 60. Divide by X both sides, because we are expressing in terms of X. divided by x, we're gonna have a is equals to 60 over x. So the expression is going to be 60 over x, removing that equal sign. So this whole contraption was just me to show you was just for me to show you what the rationale behind what we're doing is. Otherwise, immediately just from the question, you can just say 60 divided by x without having to do all this. But hopefully you're able to understand what I was trying to do with this. So if it takes 60 seconds to print x pages, we are trying to find, obviously, in one, how much time would it take to print one page, which it would obviously just be 60 divided by x. So you can either just go directly to the answer if you know the answer, or if you just so that you can understand more, you can do this. But remember, paper 3 is also a time paper, so you have 2 hours 30 minutes to do 14 questions. So remember that if you are gonna be doing this, you need to be quick. But there's a 1 mark question again, so you might as well just go directly to the answer. So let's go on to question B now. It says, in 1 minute, the machine can print 2 more pages in black and white than in color. So express in terms of x the number of pages the machine can print in color in 1 minute. So let us say that let us say that since we already determined that the machine can print x number of pages in 60 seconds, and it's saying that it prints actually 2 more pages in black and white than in color. And if in black and white it prints x pages, that means that if I print in color, it's going to print less pages in the same amount of time. So what it's basically meaning that if the time is x, which we said that the black and white can print x pages, x number of pages in 60 seconds, and we're saying that the black and white can print 2 more additional pages than the one in color, that means that the one in color prints less pages. That's the first step. We already know that when we print in color, the machine is going to print less pages, because in black and white it prints 2 more pages than that of color. So if in color, again I repeat, it's going to print less pages, that means that we're going to subtract 2 from x. So basically what I'm saying is that, just like we said that it prints x number of pages in black and white, and in color we're saying that it's going to print less pages, so that means that the number has to be, or what we're going to do, it has to be less than x. So obviously we can already determine that we are subtracting from x, so it's going to be minus 2 pages. So it can print 2 pages less in color. It's the same as saying that it can print 2 more pages in black and white. But since we have x, which is the number of pages in black and white, we already know that in color it's going to print 2 pages less. So it's going to be minus 2, x minus 2. Hopefully this is making sense and this is just not adding to the confusion. But yeah, that's basically what you're gonna do. So you are going to have x minus 2 because you are going to print less pages in color in 1 minute. And then it says B Roman numeral number 2 says the time in seconds it takes the machine to print 1 page in color. So let's just go through this contraption again just to show you the rationale, but obviously you can go straight to the answer and write it. These are 1 mark questions anyway. So you can write sorry for that, number of pages is 2 seconds. So you have x minus 2 pages in 60 seconds, and you want to know how how much time it takes to print one page in color. So here let's use B this time. So we're basically gonna have cross multiply, obviously. It's literally the same thing we did this side. So it's gonna be B times x minus 2 is equals to 60 times 1, which is gonna be 60. So in this case, we're just gonna divide by x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. We're gonna have B is equals to 6 divided by x minus 2. So in this case, remember to rewrite it because an expression does not have an equal sign. And then you have 60 divided by x minus 2. So now, yeah, that's the number, the time actually in seconds it takes the machine to print one page in color. So now when we move on to the question C, it says it takes 2.5 seconds more to print a page in color than to print in black and white. So it takes more time to print in color than to print in black and white. So the time it takes to print again in color is more than that of black and white. So if the time it takes to print in color is more and the time it takes to print in black and white is less, so what you're going to do is when you form the equation, the amount of time which is more, the amount of time which it takes to print in color, obviously because it's more, minus the amount of time it takes to print in black and white, and then is equals to 2.5 seconds. So you'll have something like this. So basically, since there's more time minus the less time is equals to 2.5. I hope it makes sense. So what we're gonna do is just basically gonna be the same thing we've been doing all throughout. So I'll just start by times x minus 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 2. X minus 2 will cancel out x minus 2, and then we'll have 60 minus 60 x minus 2. Remember not to do anything dodgy like canceling out this x and this x. No, is equals to 2.5 x minus 2. So this would obviously be 2.5 times x would be 2.5x. 2.5 times minus 2 is gonna be minus 5. So we'll just write that down instead. 2.5x minus 5. And then we're gonna times x here, times x, times x, times x, of which we're gonna have 60 minus this x would cancel this x. So 60x minus 120 is equals to 2.5 x squared minus 5x. So what we're then gonna do, of which I can already see that I forgot to 60 times x, of which is supposed to be 60x there, sorry. So 60x minus 60x would be 0. 60 donkeys minus 60 donkeys is 0, obviously. And then we're going to remain with minus 120 is equals to 2.5x squared minus 5x. So, oh, and I actually made another mistake here, of which minus 60 times minus 2 is supposed to give us positive 120. I can already see that if I had reduced it further, it wouldn't have given me the same thing. So please always check for any mistakes that you can make, because it's very easy to make mistakes like that. So in this case, like I just said, minus 60 times minus negative 2 would have given me positive 120. So yeah, that's the mistake that I had made. All I need to do is take 120 to the other side, minus 120, which would be 0 is equals to 2.5x squared minus 5x minus 120. So we want to remain with x squared alone. So we're basically just going to divide by 2.5 everywhere. So we're going to have x squared minus 2x. And then just to confirm, I'll put in 120 divided by 5 into the divided by 2.5 into the calculator, which is obviously 48. So minus 48 is equals to 0. So we have reduced the equation. So immediately, let me try and write it down here. Minus 2x minus 48 is equals to 0. So immediately now, you have reduced your equation. You've gotten your 3 marks. So then the next question would be, obviously, as usual, to solve the equation. At this point, we're pros at this now. I'm sure that you're getting used to how the questions are going. So remember the quadratic equation. I can emphasize this more. So you're going to have x is equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a is equals to. So let's actually just follow the same method we've been doing all along. So we've been saying ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. Okay, so the equation is x squared minus 2x minus 48 is equals to 0. Then it's gonna be a. Remember that x squared is the same as 1x squared. So a is gonna be 1, b is gonna be negative 2, c is gonna be negative 48. So it's going to be 2 negative 2 plus or minus square root of b, which is going to be negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 48 divided by 2 times 1. So that's going to be 2 plus or minus square root of 4. Obviously, because a minus and a minus give you a plus, so that's why it suddenly becomes a positive 2. So it's gonna be, or let me just put it into the calculator like this instead of going through the small nitty-gritty processes. So we'll just put in minus negative 2 or minus 2, however you want to put it, plus square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 48. Please don't forget the negatives as you put this into your calculator, divided by 2 plus 1. So this immediately just gives me 8. And then if I put in a minus now instead of the plus, what I'm going to get is a negative 6. So these are the answers. 8 or negative 6. And then it now says, finally, how long in seconds does the machine take to print one page in color? Remember, like we've been doing with the past questions, we're not going to use a negative time. So it's going to obviously be, we're going to use 8. So it says one page in color. Remember that we had done this already in this question. So we're just going to take that's 60 divided by x minus 2, sorry. So I'll just write it by the side here. So it's going to be 60 divided by x minus 2, which is going to be 60 divided by 8, because we're choosing the positive number. Why? Because we don't have anything like negative time. So it's going to be 8 minus 2. So it's going to be 60 divided by 6, which is going to give you 10 seconds. So this is the amount of time it takes to print a page in color, basically. And yeah, that would be your answer. And in summary, this is just nothing different. It's basically the same thing that we've been doing throughout. Sorry for that. It's the same thing we've been doing throughout with each and every question. So as we get into the next question, we are already pros at this. It's gonna be the same format. So the next question says, Kaho spends 510 pula on meat in the month of June, and A wants us A says the meat costs X pula per kg. So we are to express in terms of X the amount of meat in kg that Kaho buys in June. So let's scroll down a bit. What we're basically gonna do is the same thing that we did in the previous question. So we'll have something like, let's put it as cost, which is in pula, is 2 kg. And then we can put X pula is to 1 kg, since it says that X pula, the meat costs X pula per kg. So it has already told us now that Kaho spent 510 pula in the month of June to buy meat. So we already know that the cost is 510 pula is to, let's just assume and put A, something like A. So we have X is to 1, 510 is to A. So we're gonna cross multiply. A here is just to represent like the amount of kg or the amount of meat that he can actually buy. So let's not panic when we see these new variables. So cross multiplying A times X is AX, 510 times 1 is 510. So since we're expressing in terms of X, we want to make sure we remain with A. So it's going to be 510 divided by X, and then A is equals to 510 divided by X. And remember to rewrite it down, because an expression does not have an equal sign. So you'll have 510 divided by X. And like I said in the previous question, other people can immediately just go to just write that 510 divided by X without having to go through this, because yeah, paper 3 is a time paper. You have 2 hours 30 minutes to answer like 14 questions, so it would waste a bit of your time to do this. But if it's what you understand, this is just for me to make you understand much more better. And if you're able to understand what I'm doing here much more better, you can just continue on with the method, just making sure that when you're writing your paper, you take as least time as possible doing this. And otherwise, there's also a 1 mark question, so that's why you can be able to skip all these other steps and just go immediately to the answer. So now it says in July the cost of meat per kg of meat increased by 2 pula. Expressed in terms of X the new cost of meat per kg. So like we've been doing in the previous ones, it's telling us that the cost of meat increased by 2 pula. And initially it told us in the first question that meat costs X pula per kg in June. So this time it has increased by 2 pula. So what we're gonna do is simply just it's gonna be X plus 2 pula in the month of July. Since it increased by 2 pula, that means we just add 2 pula. So it's basically the same thing that we've been doing in the previous questions. Then the next question says, the amount of meat in kg, expressed in terms of X, the amount of meat in kg that Kaho will now buy with the same amount of money. So this one is another easy question. So the amount of meat that Kaho will now buy, it's gonna simply be, we'll just do something similar to this. Cost in Pula is to the kgs, right? And if x plus 2 this time, because the cost has now increased, can buy 1 kg of meat, 510 Pula, since it's saying how much can Kaho now buy with the same amount of money. So 510 Pula is equal to, I think I'll just put let's use B actually, like we did in the previous one. So let's cross multiply again. We're going to have bx plus 2 is equals to 510 divide by b divide by x plus 2 actually, divide by x plus 2. B is equals to 510 divided by x plus 2. So you can rewrite it. Yep. And then you would have 510 divided by x plus 2, which is now the amount of meat you can now buy with 510 Pula now in the month of July specifically. And another thing that you can note, another thing that you can note is that you can also go directly to the answer here, because this is a 1 mark question or it requires the answer. But again, if you understand this whole method and if you want to use it going forward, you can just continue to use it, just making sure that you're keeping in the time frame. So the next question says the amount of meat he can now buy is 1.5 kg less than the amount of meat he could have bought in June. So it says form an equation in x for this information and show that it reduces to x squared plus 2x minus 680 is equals to 0. So it's telling us that now you can buy less meat in July. So if you can buy less meat in July, that means that in June you can buy more meat. So I'm going to say the more meat, which is in June, right, minus less meat, which is in July, is equals to 1.5. Because we are saying that she can now buy 1.5 kg less. So the like I said, more meat in June minus less meat in July is equals to 1.5. So what we're gonna do is gonna be the same thing that we've been doing with all the other questions, times x times x times x, and then you'll have that times x canceling out the divided by x. So you'll have 510 minus, make sure not to do any funny stuff like I said earlier, and then you're gonna have 510x divided by x plus 2 is equals to 1.5x. So you're just gonna go again, times x plus 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 2. So x plus 2 will cancel out x plus 2, and then we'll remain with 510 x plus 2 minus 510x is equals to 1.5 x squared plus 3x. And then we'll expand this. 510 times x is 510x. 510 times 2, put it into the calculator. 510 times 2, that's 1020. So 510 times 2, 1020, minus 510x again is equals to 1.5x squared plus 3x. So the next thing, we collect the like terms. So 510x minus 510x plus 1020 is equals to 1.5x squared plus 3x. And 510x minus 510x would be 0. So we're going to remain with 1020 is equals to 1.5x squared plus 3x. So divide by 1.5 here, divide by 1.5 there, divide by 1.5 there. Or rather, before we even do that, let me take it all to the same side. So I'll just say minus 1020 minus 1020. And we'll remain with 0 is equals to 1.5x squared plus 3x minus 1020. So divide by 1.5 so that we remain with x squared. As you can see, the way it's reduced here, divide by 1.5, divide by 1.5, and you will get x squared plus 2x minus 1020 divided by 1.5. That gives you 680. So as you can see, in this case, we have managed to reduce it. And it's basically the same thing as that. So with this, you get your 3 marks. And then we go on to our favorite question, if it is our favorite question anyway, to solve the equation. So the equation that we have is x squared plus 2x minus 680 is equals to 0, which we reduced. I'm so sorry for the background noise. That we reduced. So we're going to write down the quadratic equation. The quadratic formula, which is going to be negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. As we said, remember the ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. Remember, write it down again, x squared plus 2x minus 680. At this point, I'm sure that we're pros at this. So we already know, again, x squared is the same as 1x squared. So a is equals to 1, b is equals to 2, c is equals to negative 680. And then as we put it into the quadratic formula, it's going to be negative 2 plus or minus square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times minus 680 divided by 2 times 1. So that's going to be, as I put it into the calculator, negative 2 plus square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 680 divided by 2 times 1. That gives me 25.0959767. Or we're going to put it to 2 decimal places just like they stated. So it's going to be, to put into 2 decimal places, we'll look 1, 2. So obviously the 5 here will round the 9. So in 2 decimal places, it's going to be 25.10. That's to 2 decimal places. And then if we put the minus, we're going to get negative 27.0959767. So into 2 decimal places, it's going to be negative 27.1022 decimal places. So those are the answers right there. And then lastly, D says, calculate the cost per kg of meat in July. And the cost of meat per kg was this B Roman numeral number 1. So that's going to be x plus 2. So we're going to substitute 25.10, which is the positive value, because we don't have negative money. Remember that. Which is going to actually become 25.10 plus 2, which is going to be 27.10. So it costs 27 pula 10 tebe now in the month of July. And then that's it. Basically same thing that we've been doing here. So there's 1 mark, 1 mark. That would be 1 mark again. This is 3 marks, this is 5 marks, and then there's 1 mark. So next question. So the last question of this video now says, some vanadium has a mass of 8 grams and a volume of x cubic centimeters. Write down an expression in terms of x for the density of the vanadium. So it's saying that, remember the first question where we had distance, time and speed, and remember that density is equals to mass over volume. So let's draw that physics triangle again, this time with density, mass and volume. So density, I think it's a small d, mass and volume. So what it's basically asking for is what the density of vanadium is, and we already know that density is equals to mass over volume, even deriving it just from this triangle here. So let's write it down below here. A density is equals to mass over volume, and as you can see there, do we have the mass? Of course, we've been given the mass, which is 8 grams. Do you have the volume? Yep. So you have, let's not put in the units. So you have x centimeter cubed. So the density would be 8 divided by x. So basically you're going to have, you're going to rewrite it obviously. And then you'd have, let me rewrite it below, 8 divided by x. So that is the expression for the density of the vanadium. And then B now says some mercury has a mass of 16 grams. So this was of the vanadium. Now we're talking about mercury. So it has mass 16 grams. It has a volume that is 1 cubic centimeter more than twice the volume of the vanadium. Interesting one. It's a change from just adding or subtracting. So now we are to express in terms of x the volume of mercury. So what are we gonna do for this one? So what we're basically gonna do, it wants the volume of mercury. So we already know that it says that the volume is 1 cubic centimeter more than twice the volume of vanadium. So the volume of vanadium is x. And let's begin with this part. The twice, 1 centimeter more than twice the volume of vanadium. So twice the volume of vanadium would be 2x, right? Because that's 2 times the volume of the vanadium. So that's 2 times x. So that's why we have 2x. But wait, there's more to the question. It says that the volume is 1 cubic centimeter more than that 2x. So we're going to do what? We're going to add 1. So that's your volume of mercury. That's 2 times the volume of vanadium plus 1 cubic centimeter. So that would basically be 2x plus 1. So B Roman numeral number 2 would now be to write down the density. Again, density is equals to mass over volume. This is the density of mercury now. So do we have the mass? Of course we have the mass, which is 16 grams. Do we have the volume? Of course, which is the one which we have in the above question. Excellent. So we have 16 divided by 2x plus 1. So that would be the density. Of course, you rewrite it 2x plus 1. Yep, and then we can proceed on to the next question. C. So C now says the density of mercury is 0.1 gram per cubic centimeter less than the density of vanadium. So this is the lower, and then this is more. So more minus less would give you 0.1. So like it's saying the density of mercury is less than the density of vanadium. So we're gonna say 8 divided by x, the bigger one, minus the smaller one, is equals to 0.1. So always keep this in mind when you do your paper 3, that especially when you are reducing, that the bigger should be minus the smaller and then is equals to this. So we're basically just going to do the same thing that we've been doing all along, in terms of reducing, just times x times x times x. So it's going to be this times x divided cancels the divided by x. So we're going to have 8 minus 16x divided by 2x plus 1 is equals to 0.1x. And then the next thing that you're going to have now is times 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. And I still haven't forgotten, don't do the tricky times trying to cancel out the x. No, like I've said in the previous questions, no, don't do it. Times 2x plus 1. So this times 2x plus 1 will cancel out the divided by 2x plus 1. So we're going to have 8 2x plus 1 minus 16x is equals to 0.2x squared plus 0.1x. So it's going to be 16x plus 8. Once we expand, 8 times 2x is 16. 8 times 1 is 8 minus 16x is equals to 0.2x squared plus 0.1x. So we're going to end up remaining with 16x minus 16x plus 8 is equals to 0.2x squared plus 0.1x. So 16x minus 16x is gonna give you 0. 16 donkeys minus 16 donkeys is 0. So it's gonna be plus 8 is equals to, so 0. So we're gonna remain with 8 is equals to 0.2x squared. Let me scroll down a bit. Plus 0.1x. And then we're going to take it to the same side, obviously. And then we're going to have 0 is equals to 0.2x squared plus 0.1x minus 8. So now we're going to have to reduce it. We want to remain just with that 2x squared. So this is an interesting one, right? Because this time we are not remaining with only x squared at the beginning. We are remaining with something more. So this, instead of doing a divided by 0.2x squared, we're actually going to use 0.1. So divide by 0.1, divide by 0.1, divide by 0.1, divide by 0.1. And then you're going to have 0 is equals to, because 0 divided by 0.1 is 0, is equals to 2x squared plus x minus 80. And then boom, there you go. So you have that quadratic equation now. So you have reduced and gotten your 3 marks. Now it says solve the equation 2x squared plus x minus 80 is equals to 0. Please remember that you always need that quadratic equation. You always have to cram it. So this is how it looks like we've been writing it all along. So this is how it looks. And as usual, ax squared plus bx plus c. And then we write it down, 2x squared plus x minus 80 is equals to 0 is equals to 0. And then A is gonna be 2, B is gonna be 1 because 1x, x is the same as 1x, and C is gonna be minus 80. So what we're gonna have now, we're gonna substitute it in. Minus 1 plus or minus square root of 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 80 divided by 2 times 2. So what we're going to have now, you just put it into your calculator. Minus 1 plus square root of 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 80 divided by 2 times 2. So that would give you 6.079494451. And in this case, it's asking us to give it correct to 2 decimal places. Correct to 2 decimal places, you'll have 6.08 because there's 2 decimal places, and the 9 will round off to the 7. So you'll specify again to 2 dp. And remember, the strategy is just to write the number in full, and then that's when you can go on to round off, because usually sometimes maybe if you make a mistake with your rounding off, or if your rounding off is inaccurate, they can just consider the full number as your answer and then just give you the free marks, or the full marks, subtracting the fact that, or just ignoring the fact that you rounded off wrong. So it's good to write down the full number. So please don't shy away from doing that. And then the other would be minus 6.579494451. 2 decimal places is negative 6.58. This is 2 decimal places. So these are the answers here. So the last one wants us here to calculate. So the next question here would require us to calculate the volume of mercury. So the volume, it's basically this one, and we already had it here as 2x plus 1. So volume of mercury 2x plus 1. So it's gonna be 2 times 6.08 plus 1, which is going to be 13.16. Sorry for that. 13.16. And that's going to be in cubic centimeters. And then that's the end of it all. So in summary again, this one is 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark, 3 marks, 5 marks, and 1 mark, just like that. So that's a 12-mark question. And in summary, it's just gonna be the same thing that we've been doing. And yeah, this would be the last question of the video. And if you want any other videos on quadratic equations, or if you want me to explain anything that I didn't explain here further, or if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below anything that you want me to cover, or anything that you want me to explain further. Please don't forget to like, share, please subscribe. I really want to be able to reach a huge audience, and just to be able to help students just be able to perform better in their maths. So if you have any other topics that you want me to discuss or any other papers that you want me to go through, please feel free to comment them down below, and I'll be able to cover them in the future as we go on. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day.